Who's that? Oh, that was a good. Apologies.
Okay, you all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Pursuant to Section 5, Chapter 231, the Public Laws of 1975, this is to state for the record that adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the public by posting and maintaining the annual notice of the regular meetings on the bulletin board in the municipal building, and by providing a copy of the annual notice of the regular meetings for the year 2016 to the Glen Ridge paper, the Glen Ridge Voice, the Montclair Times, and the Star Ledger on Tuesday, January 5th, 2016, and by filing said notice in the office of the municipal clerk. Will clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes. Here. Kovic.
Here.
Lethwick.
Here.
Dawson.
Here.
Murphy. Here. Morrow.
Here.
Mayor Pat is present. Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Michael. Can we have somebody move to approve the minutes of the February 22nd meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Any comment? Will clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Kovic.
Aye.
Lethwick.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays. Motion is carried.
Are there any written communications?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The first one is from the State Valley Sewer Commission, informing us that we'll be getting a refund due to an error in billing for the past 4 years rather. The refund will be about $13,425. And then the second piece of correspondence from Connell is PSE&G notifying us that they applied for a freshwater wetlands permit regarding property within the entire PSE&G service area encompassing 15 New Jersey counties and their 288 municipalities. And that concludes correspondence.
We file correspondence, please. This is the time for comments from the public. So if anybody wishes to be heard, would you come forward and give your name and address, please?
My name is Edward Kastenmeyer. I live at 139 Ridgewood Avenue, and I came here, I believe, in December to discuss the issue of speed along Washington Street and whether there was concerns about how fast cars were moving. And subsequently, the police did a traffic survey, and they did come up with several recommendations. The two that I think are most important to bring before the council are to repaint the lines along the traffic bumps, and also possibly to raise them. And the other thing I wanted to bring up as a concept is whether it is worth doing a similar survey of speed on the other side of Ridgewood Avenue, between Montclair and Ridgewood Avenue on Washington Street. Because I feel like that's an area in which cars travel very quickly, and the road dips precipitously right before it hits Ridgewood Avenue. And so, I remember looking at my front window once in the winter last year, I think, and watching a car put on its brakes at the top of the hill and slide right into the intersection, unable to stop. And so I feel like that may be something else we might want to do, just to discover whether that sheds any light on the situation.
Okay, thank you. Regarding several items. Number one, when weather permits, we're going to be doing the repainting of the speed bumps. Two, the Department of Transportation actually regulates the height of the bumps.
Okay.
So we'll have to check with those to see if they can be increased in height. And lastly, regarding the traffic survey, we're going to be paving the Washington Street from Ridgewood to the Montclair line. And before any project and after each project, we do a traffic count and speed survey. So that will be done this spring, probably in April.
Oh, good. And last time you mentioned that you might do the survey east of Ridgewood Avenue again in June to see how things have changed. Is that still the plan?
That's correct.
Okay.
So we looked at the numbers from a survey that was maybe about 5-6 years ago. There was an increase, but not that significant. And what we were looking to see is once people become aware of the food town how the
Right.
traffic may be increasing. So that study will be performed probably early June, before school lets out.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. I was remembering that study. I looked at that study, and I was going to ask you about that. It's my personal interest as I live on Washington.
Good evening. My name is Milo Jalen. I live at 23 High Street. I'm here to oppose or voice my opposition to appears to be a vape store that is scheduled to open in the business strip here on Bloomfield Avenue. It seems an inappropriate business to have so close to our schools. Vape stores also, sell drug paraphernalia. Head shops, like head shops. There's been a lot of chatter about this on the Glen Ridge Facebook community page, and frankly, I'm surprised no one is here tonight other than myself. But
to that point, I did receive a petition, and Anne Marie will speak to that.
Right, there has been a petition, and I think at a minimum of 1,000 signatures is required, and there are some 700 or there's a significant number. 275. Frankly, I don't know what the procedure is. First of all, what the state of the lease is for this business, and whether it's possible for the township to pass or to amend a zoning ordinance sort of ex post facto and block it, or are we stuck now with this business opening here, or what exactly can you do?
I'll ask our counsel, John Molesky, to respond to those questions, the legal questions that you just asked.
Right.
John?
We're going to just take a review of our ordinances, as I understand what we're discussing, and we're going to see what options we have. To the extent that a lease has been signed, it's very possible that the person may be within rights to conduct a business if the present zoning allows that. Any zoning change that we would do would basically be prospective.
Right.
It's very hard to change anything
Retroactively.
relates to an existing right. I'm not sure that we have seen everything yet that pertains to that, so it remains under advisement. But the general rule of law would be that if the use is permitted under the current zoning law and the rights of the tenant have been solidified under the current zoning law, there's not much one can do to take that right away.
Right, and do we know what the status is? Has a lease been signed?
I don't know if we know all of that yet. I'm not sure about that.
The only thing we're aware of is that they have applied for construction permits and have started the fit-up in the store. That's about the only information we have.
That would suggest a lease.
In a situation like that, if it's an application for building permits and a fit-up, that's usually a pretty good indication that
The
a
lease
lease
has
has
been
been signed, because most times, depending on who has the responsibility for doing the fit-up, most times someone will not undertake that expense unless they have the right to occupy it.
Exactly.
It's
That's good.
proper.
We did discuss the petition and the matter in our workshop session, and I will say the council shares the views that you've expressed, or that have been expressed in the petition, and it will be referred to the planning board. It may not be able to impact this existing, but on a go-forward basis.
Right. Okay, thanks for answering my questions.
Okay.
Thank you. Jackie?
Jackie Eustine, 326 Washington Street. I bring spring greetings from the county. It's cherry blossom season. We have a cherry blossom 10K run. I thought Peter would be interested in that. And it's a lovely way to see the park if you run through it while the cherry blossoms are blooming. There's a whole slew of events. There's a cherry blossom challenge bike race. There's Family Day. There's Bloomfest, a 1-mile fun walk and run. And it takes place from April 9th to April 24th. Every weekend there will be events. And there is a historical walk through the park. You can access it through your phones. And there's also a guided walk for $5, and I believe they take you on a little trolley through the park. So I will leave all this stuff here.
It's a beautiful park, and it doesn't have to be April or May to enjoy
It is a lovely park, and because Joe is so competitive, we have more cherry blossoms than they have in Washington. And it's beautiful at any time of the year, but it is especially beautiful when it's blooming. So thank you.
Jackie, they're going to have to move the dates up. The trees are already starting
Are they
to
starting?
bud up. Yeah, and actually a couple of trees have already started to open up.
There are many varieties, so some bloom very early and some bloom late. So hopefully there'll still be some. Brentford Park. It starts in Newark and goes through Belleville.
It's like a serpentine. It's long and thin, and
Is the main access off of Bell?
yeah, the main access is off of Bell. You know where Claremont Hospital is? No.
You took Belleville Avenue right here.
Belleville Avenue.
Make sure they would bring you down.
You get to the park,
Can't miss it.
and it's the crown jewel of the county park, and all of the county parks are designed by Frederick Olmsted and Kermit.
Same guy that did Central Park.
Hi, my name is Deborah Dine. I'm from 6 Laurel Place. I just wanted to share with the mayor and council that we en masse attended the planning board meeting, which we appreciate. But H2M did not do a meaningful traffic study. They didn't even address what happens when you turn right out of the new hospital parking lot. There's no question that there will be additional traffic, additional parking, and additional lights. Based on the site plan provided and the traffic study and what we heard at the meeting, it's clear to the residents of Laurel Place that the proposed hospital development will dramatically increase traffic on Laurel Place. With the hundreds of additional parking spaces, a significant exit will be closed here. There are 2 traffic lights to be added here. And here. And despite the fact that they didn't actually do a traffic study, if you turn right out of the parking lot, I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to realize that with this blocked and these lights here, traffic will be forced to Laurel Place. The exits represent where the 2 accidents happened, the flipped car and the 9-year-old boy who was hit. Thank you. A significant majority of the households on Laurel Place are in favor of the cul-de-sac. Based on the official traffic study done by your own Public Safety Committee and Chief Sheila Byron Lagatuda, Laurel Place needed a solution last summer. The town of Glenridge owns the streets, not John Frumhold nor the hospital. It is within the power of the planning board and the mayor and council to just build the cul-de-sac at the west end of Laurel Place. The planning board did it for Hathaway, and they can do it today for Laurel. You represent the citizens. The hospital is clearly watching out for its own interests. Why don't you watch out for us? If you don't, who will? No matter what happens with the hospital, this would be an appropriate use of local funds. As a taxpayer, I would rather have the hospital pay. But it is in the best interest of the town to put a cul-de-sac at the west end of Laurel Place.
Hi, my name is David Dine. I live at 6 Laurel Place, Glenwood, New Jersey. Could we please have a cul-de-sac?
Anybody else wish to be heard? Okay. We'll move on to the comments of the mayor. I have a few this evening. I would like to take a moment to extend our thanks and appreciation to Councilman David Lefkowitz, Michael Rollhall, and Mike Kelly for their tireless work between March 2nd and March 11th to craft a number of plans to ease the travel burden on our residents in the event of a New Jersey Transit strike. When David first heard of the possibility of a strike, he immediately contacted the DeCamp Bus Company and New Jersey Transit in an attempt to get an idea of the resources that would be available to the commuter in the event of a work stoppage. He and Michael Rollhall and Mike Kelly thereafter explored numerous different plans to ease the travel burden, including ride-sharing and ride-sharing lots, having the library provide services to commuters who could work from town, the provision of jitney transportation to nearby park and ride lots, and the use of our jitneys to provide continuous loop transportation for our residents to the Grove Street Light Rail Station in Bloomfield during both the morning and evening rush hours. Some of these plans ultimately had to be scrapped as they were found to create other problems. So this was a constantly evolving program. Had the strike actually occurred, I believe their efforts and solutions would have greatly ameliorated the commutation strain on our residents. So thanks again for your very hard work and really thinking outside the box. I would now like to commend our police department and all the residents of this community for the efficient and effective manner in which they conducted the successful search for a 10-year-old Naomi Kell this morning. It shows what a community can do when they come together with a common purpose. I think that we found her quickly, and it came to a very good conclusion, so thank you very much. Finally, there's been a number of questions about when the New Jersey Transit will finish the stairs on the westbound side of the station. It seems to have dragged out, and now they're announcing that their completion date might not be till the end of April. I spoke today with their Director of Governmental and Community Relations and discussed the situation, asking him why the delay and can we even begin to count from the end of April. He checked with their construction people and was told that they had run into a number of problems early on in the demolition phase, and that had put them behind. He also said that they were still hopeful that they would complete it by the end of April. I pointed out to him that this is not just a simple problem here for us of getting stairs on the west side of the train station, but rather it poses a real safety threat to the residents of this town in that, and I explained to him that our residents now can only exit the station through the Glen. The Glen is dark, the Glen is very shadowy, and when people get off the train, especially women, late at night, 10, 11 o'clock at night or later, that's problematic. And a month or two ago, a woman got off a late train, and she was spotted by a couple of teens who followed her and mugged her. So we've had to increase our police presence and when the trains come in late at night, but that doesn't mean we're always going to be successful. So he said that he had not known about this and that he would pass this on to the construction people and see whether or not they could do anything to move that schedule forward. But we did agree that we would talk again the first week of April for an update of where they stand. So hopefully we're going to start talking with them more and more frequently to try to get this thing moving and completed. So that's all I have tonight. Councilman Hughes?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I have no report tonight, but I have several resolutions and one ordinance. I have Resolution 4916, Following claims be approved and warrants be drawn for the same. Current fund, $5,064,000 and so forth. And be it resolved that the Chief Financial Officer, Treasurer of the Borough of Glen Ridge is hereby authorized to issue the payroll for the borough's employees for the pay date of March 14, 2016. Mayor, I move the resolution.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Will clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Palovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays. The resolution is approved.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have Resolution 50-16. Be it resolved that the following appropriation transfers be made to the 2015 current budget effective February 2016. Mike, we're backdating this to 2015?
No, that's 2016.
Yes, I thought. So this is actually 2016. The ins are 793727. The outs are 793727. This is just a cleanup of our general budget thing. There's some storm monies, some Board of Health over, FICA, that kind of thing. It's fairly routine. Mayor, I move the resolution.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any comments or will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Palovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays. The resolution is approved.
Mayor, I have ordinance number 1630 for first reading.
39.
39.
Oh, sorry. It's 1639, sorry, for first reading. And the title is an ordinance to exceed the municipal budget appropriation limits and to establish a cap bank.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion amongst the members of the council on this ordinance?
Mike, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Councilperson Hughes, the reason we're doing this is to create a cap bank for the future.
Right.
We're not going to exceed the cap in 2016. In fact, we're way underneath the cap. So this is just a measure we take for the out years, so it'll have no impact on this year's budget.
Right, for the public, the cap is the 2.5% cap on expenditures that's imposed on us by the state. Not all our expenditures fall within the cap. Typically, our expenses fall underneath the 2.5% cap, but what we do is we create a bank so we can push those amounts that were underneath into future years if we need them.
Correct. And the cap bank is only available for us for 2 years. After 2 years, it expires.
Yeah. So it's just, again, it's one of these legislative type things.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further comments, I refer ordinance number 1639 to the municipal clerk for the purpose of statutory publication and posting.
Mr. Mayor, roll call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Palovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays. The ordinance is passed on first reading.
And I will not repeat myself. Sorry.
Mayor, that ends my report.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I only have one item tonight, but before I get to it, I'd like to address Ms. Dine's comments. I think maybe Councilperson Morrow might have something to say, and I also like Michael to add something. But when we first met concerning this, and this topic has been on our mind continuously since you first sat down at a public safety meeting in the chief's office, and we reviewed a traffic study that was done around that period of time. As it turned out, that traffic study was done by the police force, and it was done at a time where there was some problem on Bay Avenue, so that traffic was being diverted. So it's our intention now, given what's happened with the H2M and the whole redevelopment plan at the MOB site and at the hospital site, to do a independent, comprehensive traffic study at Laurel Avenue, Laurel Place, that is. Not through the police, but by an outside independent engineering firm that will look at the traffic flow and patterns and anticipated patterns with the development at that site. So, Michael, you may want to add something to that?
When the police do a traffic study, it's traffic counts and its speed, and it's basically done to determine the best time for police enforcement. When we do a traffic study, we are involved with everything besides the speed and besides the volume. It's turning movement, its origin and destination. So there's other elements that are in a broader, more comprehensive traffic study, and so that's what we want to authorize. And now that the weather's better, we really can't do those studies when there's any hint of snow. We have to pull cameras back and forth. So now we can proceed and have the comprehensive traffic study performed by a consultant.
Yeah, as it became apparent what was happening at the site with, and also with the scope of H2M's study, the only reason we haven't done this other study is because, as Michael said, with the weather. You have to wait until the weather gets clearer and there will be less of an interruption. So that's where we stand.
Let me just ask a question on behalf of the homeowner. Let's say we do the study and the study says status quo, leave it alone. And after the project is complete, it's found that the homeowner is right. The folks on Laurel Place have experienced a tremendous amount of increase in traffic. I mean, this is something that we can revisit, isn't it?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah, but I think in response to the question, we can do this now. We'll do a study, and it may well show that the traffic is not to the volume that would induce us to put the cul-de-sac there now. If history continues and what you say, what you anticipate will happen as a result of those two traffic lights to the north, and it's diverting traffic more down your block, then we certainly can revisit it, and we certainly would.
Right, but the question is, if it's not going to go down your block, whose block is it going to go down? And we also want to get an understanding of what is the flow. We can't beggar thy neighbor. We can't just take one look at your street and then push it all down Sherman, for example. I mean, that wouldn't be fair either. So we have to get a sense of the larger picture.
May I have one more thing? The scope of work for H2M was really evaluating present conditions. The modeling work hasn't even begun yet. When the site plan comes in, that's when you model the whole area. So this particular contract is really focused on existing conditions, and as part of the existing conditions, we know that the traffic intersection at Bay and Highland is ready built. That's obvious just based on, not in building an office building, just based on existing conditions. So we didn't even get into the modeling work, and not to defend H2M, but that was not in their scope of service to model the area for post-construction.
If I may just add one other thing before, and then you certainly can have the floor, but when we first considered this, what we said was there's going to be a major redevelopment in that area, and rather than immediately jump to a conclusion about putting a cul-de-sac at Laurel Place, it was important to consider what's going to happen in that whole area, and we're still in that process. Go ahead.
Yes,
Please.
thank you, and thank you for addressing it, and thank you for another a traffic study that's more comprehensive. I really appreciate it. You just said the problems that I may anticipate, but actually it was written in the current study that we could anticipate, everyone could anticipate, as per the study of H2M, 200 more cars in the area per hour, because the hospital is going, as you remember from John Frumhold's presentation, it's going from a hospital where you visit and you stay overnight to kind of an outpatient idea, where it's a medical building where people are coming in on a regular basis. But according to H2M's study that they just completed, we can expect 200 in addition to what we currently have per hour. That's about 1,200 more cars per day in the area.
Yeah, I don't mean to argue with you. But that
Oh, yeah,
mean
and I'm
there's
not.
gonna be
I'm just
200
giving information.
There aren't going to be 200 cars. It's not suggesting there'll be 200 cars an hour going down Laurel Place. There will be a higher volume because of the nature of the change in that area with the MOB building and how they're going to configure the parking. But even that parking plan isn't set in stone. This is where they are in the long process of redeveloping the site. It may change. It probably won't, but it may change. And your street happens to be contiguous to that area, and we're certainly going to continue to look at it as we go forward.
We appreciate it. We just want to be safe, and in response to you, Councilperson Hughes, we just simply want to see a traffic study outside of the area of redevelopment. We would love to see it for the whole area. There's got to be some intention of how people are getting from the Garden State Parkway to this medical facility, but nobody seems to have any idea of what that is or presenting it to us. So hopefully now with what you're talking about, we will. So I think that would be very helpful.
I will say it's meeting on the 28th, the one area, while they went through the plan, an appendix to the plan was this traffic study. They really did not spend any time going through it. Obviously, there were traffic concerns raised, and I think both boards were sensitive to the fact that at this point, it's kind of an uncertainty because in part they haven't decided where the traffic lights are going to go. They're still considering where's the parking going to be. I mean, I think a lot of it is still under review. I know our planning board is going to go through the plan this coming Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
But I think having this other traffic study, will help. I mean, I guess another thing we could consider is restricting turns for certain periods of time. If we decided that it appeared as though based on the study there was an increased amount of traffic at certain times of the day. I mean, I think there are other perhaps traffic calming measures that could be considered, either on an interim basis but I think we're just not at a point right now to be able to say definitively. Which doesn't mean it's not being discussed.
I mean, Anne-Marie was on the board there for that meeting. I was in the audience, and there were multiple concerns, and your neighbor spoke up very articulately about what her concerns were. But there are many.
I know. I wrote the speech.
but there were many.
My husband and I.
There were many other concerns about even how the parking is laid out there, and so. Anyway, we need to evaluate all that.
We are still discussing.
I understand it's under review, but as much as we want to make sure that everybody understands that we were not convinced by the planning board presentation or the H2M presentation last week. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Mayor, I have just one item. It's resolution number 51-16. It is a resolution authorizing the submission of a grant application to the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse for the fiscal grant cycle of the years July 2014 through June 2019. Right? And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Borough Council does hereby authorize the submission of a strategic plan for the Glen Ridge Municipal Alliance Grant through the Governor's Council on Alcoholism and Drug Abuse for the fiscal year 2017, the total amount of about $76,000. And the Borough Council will acknowledge the terms and conditions of administering this Municipal Alliance Grant, including administrative compliance and audit requirements. I move the resolution.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Art.
Needless to say, this is an important aspect in this day and age for people of all ages. So.
Any discussion on this resolution? Will clerk please call roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Wasovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays. The resolution is approved.
And that's all I have this evening.
Thank you. David?
Mr. Mayor, I have no report this evening, other than to thank you for those comments earlier, and to say how glad I am that we didn't have to put the alternative measures into your force.
Amen. Art?
I have a brief report on our activity. I'd also like to compliment the chief on the police response to that missing child this morning. It was, the plan was in place and it was obviously worked out and executed and came to a conclusion. So that's good to see that people are ready for any eventuality. The Public Works Group in this recent period is we have a shared service with the Township of Bloomfield for all the streets have been swept. We've been regularly going around servicing the catch basins to get leaves and sticks out of them that have come down, so that if we get a heavy rain, we won't hopefully have any flooding with a blocked sewer. The roads crew's been removing trees that are identified by the borough forester for removal, and hopefully we'll be able to replace some of them with new trees. But we just had a county tree fell down on Ridgewood Avenue at 501 Ridgewood Avenue the other day I guess it was last week.
It's near your house, right?
Yeah, it was my neighbor, my next-door neighbor. Unfortunately, it didn't do much to the house. It broke some windows, but it didn't hit the house directly. And the county got in there and got it cleaned up. We have our parks crew that's been busy getting the fields ready for spring play for different sports. And the focus for the next few weeks will be getting our parks up and running, getting any winter damage taken care of. So that concludes my report, unless anybody has any questions.
I would just like to add, DPW did an outstanding job at Sherman Avenue Field. There was a couple of requests that came in, one of which was to lay cement where the players on the west side of the field, I guess the bullpen area, is where they're sitting waiting to play. And it was like a request was made, it was done overnight. It was just remarkably well done too, I might add. And the field looks fantastic. I've been over each and every one of the fields, and while they don't look like George Washington Field, they look as good as they can possibly be, being with their natural turf.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. Okay, I guess I'm up, Mayor?
I think so, Councilman.
I've got an ordinance number 1640, capital projects, which appropriates capital funds for various projects. This is the first reading, Mr. Mayor. Do you have any comments regarding that, Mr. Roll?
Yes, the capital funds are going to be spent on Cartwright Park. We're going to be replacing the playground equipment at the park. The remainder money will be going for engineering studies for our next street projects, as well as some infrastructure improvements. About $100,000 is for the parks area, $100,000 is for public works.
Yeah, reached out via Facebook to the community, just outlining what we want to do with the playground equipment at Carteret Park. We've got a lot of really good positive feedback from the community, which we were able to implement with the final design, which is also up on Facebook now. And the project should, assuming we get this appropriated, the project should begin May 15th and be completed within 30 days. So we're looking at a June 15th timeline.
Just don't use the New Jersey Transit contractor.
Right. Good point. Mr. Mayor, I offer ordinance 1640 for first reading.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Thank you, Anne Marie. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Vasovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays. The ordinance is passed on first reading.
Okay.
Is there any further discussion on this ordinance?
Okay.
Give me 1 second.
Sure.
Seeing no further comments, I refer ordinance number 1640 to the municipal clerk for the purpose of statutory publication and posting.
And Mr. Mayor, I have resolution 52-16 it's authorizing a contract with Turf Smith LLC for field maintenance. Turf Smith LLC was the lowest bid at $34,735.55, whereas the second bid came in at over $10,000 more at $45,520. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and Council of the Borough of Glen Ridge that Turf Smith LLC be awarded the contract for 2016 aeration and maintenance applications for the Borough Athletic Fields, and be it further resolved that the Administrator and Deputy Administrator are hereby authorized to sign the contract documents necessary to effectuate the award of this contract. Mr. Mayor, I offer this resolution.
Do I hear a second?
Second?
Thank you, Anne Marie. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilperson Hughes.
Aye.
Vasovich.
Aye.
Lefkowitz.
Aye.
Dawson.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
6 ayes, no nays. Resolution is approved.
That's it for me, Mr. Mayor.
Anne Marie?
All I have briefly, just a sort of recap, I guess, of the presentation by H2M. It was Monday the 28th. Was that a week ago? 2 weeks ago. I'm losing track of time. I thought the meeting, I know several of you were there, I thought it was very well attended. Public comment was well represented by both Montclair and Glen Ridge residents. I thought the comments were thoughtful, researched well. People speaking had read the draft plan that was up on our website about a week before the meeting. There were a number of topics that were requested of our both planning boards to reconsider in connection with their review of the plan. The Glen Ridge Planning Board will be meeting Wednesday to go through the draft plan, line by line, page by page. I guess a number of sort of top-level concerns include infrastructure. Could existing sewers handle the increased capacity that's going to be generated by the office building? Parking, several people spoke about parking. Why can't they either use the existing deck? Why use surface level for parking? It is kind of a litter magnet for the most part, and I think you suggested that they either use some of that space for a deck, which is also consistent with, I think, Montclair's views on parking in connection with redevelopment projects. Concerns about traffic circulation, as Deborah mentioned, Laurel Place did speak about traffic circulation. Building design was also raised. There was a request that we have a joint design committee to review. I know Glen Ridge, I think it was Kopek, Mr. Kopek was there and spoke about that as well, and also the need for LEED certification, that it should be required in the plan that the building meet LEED certification. So I do think it, was very well for the first presentation of the plan and the comment. I thought it went very well. The next step will be for both boards to meet again to review their comments. I don't believe there's been a date set for that as yet, probably sometime in April, I would imagine, by the time both boards review their comments.
Plus we got Nick $7 to park.
Oh, yeah.
The whole meeting.
So that's all I have. So the discussion, as you mentioned, Paul, it is an ongoing process. This was just the first stab at the plan. There were many comments. They will be addressed by each planning board. We'll go back. We'll meet again with the H2M. It's a process.
Okay. Thank you. Comments from the administrator?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, my thanks to Mayor for your comment, and also my thanks to Councilperson Lefkowitz and our staff for the team effort to develop, test, and communicate our plans to move out of the New Jersey transit strike. Well, I'm glad it didn't occur. I think we learned a lot of lessons and developed some contingency plans for the future if we ever have to pull them out of the drawers. So I think it was a great effort by our whole staff, so my thanks to them and the council person. Regarding upcoming meeting, the next meeting is our Student Government Day. That's where the student government spends the morning with the administration, then comes back in the evening to run the council meeting. Also at that meeting, they'll be introducing our 2016 budget. So we'll give them a little guidance on that, but they're not doing anything with raises. We're not putting that part. We're hoping to have our budget approved at the second meeting in April. And just a heads up for our changes in our council meetings due to attendance issues, our May 23rd meeting, which is usually on a Monday, will be moved to Tuesday, May 24th at the same time. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Michael. John? I have no report, Mayor. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, again, thank everybody for their kind words regarding this juvenile this morning, but it really was a concerted effort with, in the second hour when the juvenile had not been located, we moved into phase 2, which would be starting to gather volunteers from our emergency management team, and within 2 phone calls, we had over 30 people ready to go out and do some type of service. Luckily, it was unnecessary, but it does go to show how public safety is not only supported, but that people were really looking to assist. And then the other thing that I mentioned at the public safety meeting, and I know I spoke to our visitors here tonight from Washington Street about concerns is that during the winter break from school, the police department took the opportunity, day and night time, to really go through the entire list of traffic concerns, complaints, and comments from, that we received over the last 2 years, and we did traffic posts at each spot continuously during the week and then some in the evening. So we did pay quite a bit of attention to that, and we'll continue to do so, and always encourage residents that if they have an issue that they think is, either too small or that they don't even, want to have it out there that it's coming from them, that we take emails, phone calls, anything, we're willing to address any situation.
Good. Is there any new and unfinished business?
No, Mr. Mayor.
We now come to the next opportunity to be addressed by the public. Would anybody like to be heard? Seeing no one. Councilman Murphy, do you have any?
Yes, I move that we adjourn the meeting, Mr. Mayor.
Here.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Adjourned.
Yes, so do I. Well, hopefully